They find me the first time on a Monday morning. No warning, no conversation, just a bright orange notice taped to my front door like a public accusation. I stood there in my socks, coffee going cold in my hand, reading the words over and over like they might change if I blinked. Violation of HOA bylaws. Fine due immediately. First I laughed, because the violation they claimed, something I knew without a doubt, I hadn't done. That laugh didn't last long, because by the end of that month, HOA Karen would find me again, and again, and again, until my mailbox became a threat box, and my own home felt like it was under siege. And the worst part? She was lying, confidently, publicly, and she thought she could get away with it forever. I'd lived in that neighborhood for 6 quiet years. No drama, no complaints. The kind of place where people wave, mow their lawns on Saturdays, and mind their own business. The HOA existed, sure, but it was background noise. Emails about trash bins, reminders about holiday decorations. Nothing serious. Until she became HOA president. Everyone called her Karen behind her back, but never to her face. Perfect blonde hair, clipboard always in hand, sunglasses even when it was cloudy. She spoke in rules, not sentences. Smiled when she punished people. The kind of person who enjoyed authority far more than responsibility. The first fine said my fence was encroaching HOA common property. That caught my attention, because that fence, it had been there since before I bought the house. Passed inspection. It was approved, documented, signed off years ago. I emailed the HOA board. Calm, polite, attached photos, old approval letters. I assumed it was a mistake. Karen replied within 10 minutes. Short, cold, final. The board has reviewed the matter. The fine stands. No explanation, no evidence, no discussion. 2 weeks later, another fine arrived, higher this time. Now the accusation had changed. Apparently, my driveway was overextended. According to Karen, my concrete slab was trespassing onto HOA land. That's when my stomach dropped. Because now it wasn't just annoying, it was expensive. And it wasn't random. It was targeted. I started paying attention. Karen drove by my house more than anyone else's. Slowly, deliberately, sometimes twice a day. I'd catch her staring, writing something on that clipboard, shaking her head like she'd just uncovered a crime scene. Meanwhile, my neighbors, people with actual violations, heard nothing. Broken fences, overgrown yards, unapproved sheds. Nothing. Just me. I knocked on Karen's door once. Just once. She didn't invite me in. She didn't even step outside. She stood in the doorway, blocking the entrance like a bouncer. I've already explained everything via email, she said, smiling thinly. I just want to understand what you're seeing, I replied. Because the property lines. She cut me off. The HOA survey clearly shows your property exceeds its limits. I asked to see it. Her smile faded for half a second. You'll receive it if necessary. Then she closed the door. That's when I knew something was wrong. Because if a survey existed, why hide it? By month 3, the fines stacked up like parking tickets. Late fees, administrative charges, threats of legal action. The letters changed tone. From notice to final warning. From please comply to failure will result in further enforcement. One letter casually mentioned liens. That word sat heavy in my chest. A lien meant this wasn't just harassment anymore. It meant my house, my biggest investment, was at risk. I went to the next HOA meeting. Karen ran it like a courtroom where she was judge, jury, and executioner. When I brought up my fines, the room went quiet. Karen didn't look at me. She looked at the room. The homeowner is in repeated violation of community boundaries, she announced. Repeated, like I was a criminal offender. I asked calmly for proof. That's when she finally said it out loud. We have a survey. The room murmured. I asked again. Can I see it? Karen sighed dramatically. The survey confirms your fence and driveway extend beyond your lot. This is not up for debate. The board nodded. No one questioned her. Why would they? She spoke with confidence. Authority. precision. But confidence isn't proof. And authority doesn't change facts. That night I couldn't sleep. I walked my property line with a flashlight, measured distances, compared old paperwork. Everything matched. According to every document I had, my property was exactly where it was supposed to be, which meant one thing. Either every official record I had was wrong, or Karen was lying. And liars always slip. They get lazy. They get bold. They assume no one will challenge them. That's when I made a decision Karen never expected. If she wanted to play surveys, I get one. Not an HOA survey. Not a photocopy from a mystery file. A licensed, independent, professional land survey. The kind that doesn't care about clipboards or titles. The kind that deals only in truth. When the surveyor arrived, Karen showed up within minutes. Like she'd been waiting. She stood across the street pretending to check her phone, watching every measurement, every stake driven into the ground. She didn't approach, didn't interfere, but I could feel her tension from across the lawn. The survey took hours. Flags went up. Lines were drawn. Coordinates verified. The surveyor looked at me halfway through and raised an eyebrow. Who told you your property crossed HOA land? I didn't answer. I didn't need to, because his silence afterward told me everything. I didn't send the survey to Karen right away. That was the hardest part. Sitting on the truth while she kept pretending she owned it. Instead, I waited, because lies don't collapse in private. They collapse in public. And Karen had built hers right in the middle of the HOA. The next HOA meeting was packed. Word spreads fast in quiet neighborhoods, especially when fines, threats, and boundary violations start flying around. People whispered when I walked in. Some nodded. Others avoided eye contact. No one wanted to be next. Karen sat at the front table, posture perfect, clipboard locked and loaded. She looked confident, untouchable. When the meeting started, she jumped straight into violations. Mine came first. Of course it did. She spoke like she always did, smooth, rehearsed, absolute. The homeowner has continued to ignore repeated warnings regarding encroachment onto HOA common property. I raised my hand. She sighed like a teacher annoyed by a slow student. Yes, she said. I'd like to submit evidence, I replied. That got her attention. Karen blinked once, then smiled. You've already been informed that the HOA survey confirms. I'm not submitting the HOA survey, I interrupted. That smile froze. I'm submitting a licensed land survey. The room went silent. Karen's pen stopped moving. I stood up and walked to the front. Not fast, not angry, calm, because calm scares liars more than yelling ever could. I handed copies to each board member. Stamped, signed, official. Karen leaned over, trying to read upside down. I watched her eyes move. Line by line, her face changed. First confusion, then calculation, then something close to panic. I spoke before she could. This survey was conducted by an independent, state-licensed professional, I said. It confirms my fence and driveway are fully within my property line. Murmurs broke out. I continued. It also shows something else. I paused. The HOA common area encroaches onto my land. Now the room exploded. What? Is that true? No way. Karen finally stood up. That's impossible, she snapped. The HOA survey. Where is it? Someone asked. Not me. A board member. Karen hesitated. It's in our records. Then show us, another member said. Karen's hands tightened around her clipboard. She didn't pull out a survey, because there wasn't one. Not a real one. That's when I said it. Karen told me repeatedly that a survey existed. I said calmly. I asked to see it multiple times. I was refused. I turned to the board. All my fines were based on a document no one has ever produced. The board members looked at each other. Karen's authority, the thing she relied on, started cracking. One of them cleared his throat. Karen, he said slowly, do we have an official survey on file? Silence. Not the dramatic kind. The guilty kind. Finally, Karen spoke. The previous survey was informal. That word landed like a bomb. Informal, meaning useless, meaning unofficial, meaning she had fined me thousands of dollars based on nothing. The board chair stood up. "We need to suspend enforcement immediately," he said. Karen snapped her head toward him. "You can't do that," she said. "I'm the president." He didn't flinch. "You're a president, not a dictator." That got a few gasps. I stayed quiet, because the truth was doing all the work for me. The board called a recess. Karen stormed out of the room, heels clicking like gunshots down the hallway. When they came back, everything had changed. All fines against me were officially dismissed. Late fees? Gone. Threats? Retracted. Lean language? Removed from the record. But it didn't stop there, because when someone asked what would happen next, the board chair looked straight at Karen's empty seat. "We'll be conducting a full review of HOA enforcement actions." Translation: Karen wasn't just exposed. She was under investigation. 2 weeks later, I got an email, not from Karen, from the HOA attorney, confirmed everything. The HOA acknowledged improper fines. They issued a written apology. They reimbursed every dollar I had paid. And then came the line I never expected. "The HOA president has resigned, effective immediately." Just like that. No goodbye email. No explanation. No clipboard. Karen disappeared from HOA meetings entirely. A month later, survey stakes appeared in the common area. The HOA quietly corrected the boundary. On my terms. Neighbors started waving again, smiling, relieved, because when one person stands up to a bully, it reminds everyone else they can too. Here's the lesson Karen never learned. Authority without accountability is just bullying in nicer clothes. And lies only work when no one checks. All it took to bring her down was the truth, measured, marked, and impossible to ignore. And every time I walk past that fence now, I smile, because it's not just a fence anymore. It's proof.